I feel extremely overwhelmed. I have 4 shootings today. I need to remember the interviews. I need to be nice to the people. I need to welcome the people. I need
Micka, please calm down. Give me 30 minutes. I'll explain everything. It's a lot easier than you think. Go on, let's take a seat.
Mike, what is the difference between Wu Wei productivity and the classic definition of productivity?
Right, so there's a slight difference between traditional productivity and Wu Wei productivity, right? So Wu Wei, it's a ancient Chinese philosophy. It was coined back in 600 BC, and it's this idea that it's kind of like a streamlined productivity, right? So it translates loosely to effortless action. This idea that productivity, it shouldn't be this uphill battle all of the time, right? It should be this streamlined, almost flowing like water.
Oh, wow.
And this has been quite a big mindset shift in the last 3 or 4 years, because I used to work a lot. I used to work so many hours, too many hours. But now I'm focusing on decreasing to just working maybe 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day. Yet I'm more productive than I was when I was working 12, 13 hours a day. You can kind of see this in my YouTube channel in the videos that I make. So back in 2016 to
Great videos, guys, great videos.
Yeah, maybe not the older videos. The older videos are very much like, keep working, work hard. It doesn't matter how tired you are, just keep going and going and going.
Like a machine.
And it's almost like encapsulating hustle culture, which I think can be, or toxic productivity, if you like. But Wu Wei is more about working less, but actually focusing on being super productive in the time that you are working, as opposed to just working and working for the sake of working.
Like less is more.
Exactly, exactly.
And how do we reach that stage of effortless productivity?
Right, so there's this kind of common misconception that productivity is just about getting a lot of things done, when I think instead productivity is actually getting the most important things done on a consistent basis, right? It's the MIT strategy, the most important task strategy, where you're actually doing the most important tasks and not doing the tasks that are not that important, right? It's also the Pareto principle, focusing on the 20% of tasks that really matter, and then kind of delegating out or not doing the 80% tasks.
Yourself, you mean?
Exactly, right? And talking about myself, and I learned this from Rish, who's the CEO of Edge of Pops, and he said there's 4 ways to leverage productivity or leverage output. The first way is capital, so using money. So if you have a business and you get outside investment, people, right? So hiring freelancers on Fiverr or Upwork. The next one is content, so creating content. And the next one is code, so like building apps, building websites. This idea where you're basically reaching more people. So I was talking to an English teacher, not last night, but the night before last night. And she was always busy. Like, she's a Vietnamese, she teaches English, but she's here in Saigon. And she's always busy. She works a 9 to 5, and then she does evening classes, and then she does weekend classes. And then I was asking her, so why don't you like use leverage? Why don't you create content? And that way you're not just teaching 20 people in a classroom, but instead maybe you're teaching 100 people, you know, like you do on the Micka show, you're reaching thousands of people.
Keep talking.
And that's a far better way of increasing your productivity and reaching more people, as opposed to maybe trading your time for money all of the time. So using those 4 ways to leverage your productivity, I think is a far more streamlined and more strategic way of being productive and just doing more with the resources that you have.
Wow, I think it's actually very smart. Not only you become more productive, but you become more efficient in your work.
Exactly.
And has more reach, so therefore more success, more clients. Oh, okay, that's a good tip. And you mentioned earlier that this effortless state is like being water. So how can we all be like water opposed to fire, for example?
Yeah, so like I feel like the perfect analogy here in Saigon is the traffic, right?
Yes.
It's the traffic is notoriously chaotic, but actually when you're riding a bike in the traffic, it's actually not that chaotic once you've been riding for a while. Like, there are rules. Sorry, it was tickling me the whole time. It's like if there's a boulder in the middle of a river, the water will go around it, it won't go through it, right? And it's the same with productivity, where if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling exhausted, you don't push yourself to be productive. It's what I love about Vietnamese culture, where in Vietnam they have a nap at 12 o'clock in offices. And I love that, whereas in the West we don't have that. In the West we just kind of push through the tiredness, we push through that. So, and also I I heard this quote maybe a few months ago, but it really resonated with me. It's better to be a warrior in a garden rather than a gardener at war.
Is it a Vietnamese quote?
It's not a Vietnamese quote. It's a very ancient Taoism quote, I think. And it's this idea where you have two people. You have a warrior and you have a gardener, right? So you put the warrior in a garden and he's absolutely fine, right? Because he's trained for such extreme environments. Then you put that warrior in a war, he's also absolutely fine because he's trained for that. Then you have the gardener. You put the gardener in the garden, he's absolutely fine, he's trained for that. But then you put him in the extreme environment of a war and he's not trained for that. So he'll crumble, like he's not trained for it. And so I like this idea that you should be disciplined even when you don't have to be disciplined, right? Because when you do need to be disciplined, when life does start getting hard, then that's when you can really push through and you're kind of training yourself up for that. I think purpose, like having purpose, like I talk about productivity a lot, but then there's so many underlying layers of productivity. So like being disciplined and training yourself even when you don't necessarily need to be disciplined. The second thing is purpose. And there's an actor, Shia LaBeouf, he's one of the Transformers actors.
Do it!
And he made was it a TikTok video or a YouTube short video? I don't remember, but he said that to find your purpose, you need two things. You need to find something that you're really good at and that you really enjoy doing, right? Find that one thing that in your social circle, everyone knows you as being that person, right? Then the second thing is help people achieve that same thing, right? So your purpose is bigger than yourself.
The arithmetic of purposes. You find out what you're good at first. You find out how you can help other people with that. And that is your purpose.
I was quite lucky in like 2015-ish. I found my purpose. I learned about personal development, I learned about productivity, and then I remember I sat in my room and I was thinking, okay, I'm so motivated. What do I do with this, right? Like, how can I kind of spread this motivation? How can I teach people? And that's when I started the YouTube channel. And like I said, I was very lucky that I found my purpose early on. And then once you find your purpose, productivity and this kind of like streamlined Wu Wei productivity becomes so much more effortless, because of the underlying, I guess, engine of purpose, which is pushing you to be motivated, to be productive.
That's very inspiring. The good thing with you, whenever we do a video, guys, is that I just sit and I listen. It's like having a free lecture with you because you have so many references and like you're speaking fast and you have like, oh, TikTok video, oh, this author. And then, so it's very nice to have this opportunity to have this chat with you today about this topic that you are mastering.
Yeah.
Beautifully.
Because I like the idea of standing on the shoulders of giants. Like, these are not my ideas. Like, Wu Wei is not my idea. But you learn from these people and you just kind of stand on their shoulders.
And you make it reachable for us.
Exactly, yeah.
Because when I also learned one thing, when you explain something to the others, that's when, like, it's a sign that you're learning as well yourselves,
it's the
right?
refinement technique.
So speaking of learning, you mentioned something right before about the importance of like having a nap. So I want to come back on the idea that you have in your videos, like we need to adapt our task to our level of energy.
Yeah.
How important is this? How we can do it?
So like this is kind of like a nice actionable step that anyone can do, where you kind of observe what your energy levels are throughout the day, right? So for me, and my energy levels peak at about, like I'm a morning person, so like 8, 9, 10 a.m. That's when I'm at my most motivated, productive. And then my energy levels will drop at around 1, 2 p.m. And then about 4, 5 p.m. they'll increase again, right? So I have two biological prime times. So those two times, I try my best to keep my calendar empty at those two times, right? And so I'll do again, it's the MIT strategy, the most important task strategy. I'll do my most important tasks in the morning and in the evening. And then when my energy drops, then I'll do the tasks like meetings or things that don't really require that much brain power. So it's really about matching your energy levels with your tasks.
Just being self-aware.
Yeah.
Also.
And then we've got productivity, and then it's like there's one step deeper than that, because like I talk about productivity a lot, but there's so many layers to productivity. And I think actually being happy and being in a good state of mind is so important for being productive. Like if you're stressed because you can't pay the rent, or you're stressed because of relationship problems, or stressed for whatever problems, it has a massive effect on your productivity. And John Peterson, he's written quite a lot about this. It's this idea that you shouldn't be aiming for happiness. You should be aiming for adventure, because if your boat is happiness, like life is hard, right? Life is really, really hard. And Tussi's episode that you just released is a perfect example of how difficult life can actually get, right? You know, everyone's going through their problems. And if your boat is happiness, the slightest wave, you're going to capsize, right? But if your boat is adventure, right? I still think, because in the last episode, what I was on, I was talking about happiness. I was talking about the 4 pillars: health, wealth, people, happiness. And if you have those 4 pillars, you have stability. And we all need stability, right? We all need an emergency fund in case, you know, we lose our job. We all need good people around us, right? But once you have that stability, I think the next layer of happiness is adventure, right? So it's really about, okay, imagine what kind of person you could become if you really put everything into your career, right? Or into your relationship, or into whatever area of your life. Like, imagine what kind of adventure you could go on, right? Because there's a lot of people with stability, they've got 9-to-5 jobs, they've got well-paid jobs, finances are fine,
they don't take
healthy. Exactly, but they're not happy. It's like, okay, is that it, right? Because I think they're missing adventure, right? And it's the same with you as well. Like, you've moved from your home country to Vietnam.
Like you.
Exactly. Like
we did it together. I mean, together. No, not together. Whoa, we did separately.
Separately, we're together.
Yeah.
And so it's this adventure that really, so once you have that stability, it's then, okay, once you have the stability, then you go on adventure. And I think that's when you can really become happy, because being happy is a big part of being productive.
In one of your numerous amazing videos, you talk about how important it is to have systems. Systems are more important than goals. Can you come back on this idea to reach productivity?
Yeah, so this has been like a massive kind of mindset shift in probably the last 12 months. And I'll go through systems in my kind of business life and then also in my personal life. So I don't really set goals anymore. I don't really set goals. So goals are like very kind of future oriented, right? So I want to hit 1 million subscribers in 2 years, for example. That would be a goal. Whereas a system would be, okay, how am I going to achieve that? Like, what are the actionable steps, right? So maybe I'm going to post a video every week and really level up every single video. That would be more of a system, right? And I feel like systems are so much more powerful. It's the same with our company. So with PlayStart, we went on a bit of a hiring spree about 2 months ago. And we was hiring video editors, but it was like, or designers, for example, and it was like we had to have the same conversation, like the same training, like, for example, the thumbnails, how increase the brightness to 11, increase the contrast to 11, increase the vibrancy to 11. And we had to have the same conversation every time a new person would come in. And then it's like, okay, why don't we just write out a process, a standard operating procedure, SOP, and that would save so much time. So that's an example of a system that saved so much time in the business side. And then in my personal life, it's like, when I come home after work on a night time, I put my EDC, my everyday carry, my watch, my AirPods.
So EDC?
Everyday carry.
Everyday carry.
Everyday carry. Like my watch, my AirPods, my wallets, and my keys. I put them all on my desk in the same place. Every single time I come home, it's an automated habit. It's just what I do. I've not lost my keys. I've not lost my wallet. I've not lost anything of my everyday carry for like years and years and years. And it's just like a very basic thing, a basic system, a basic habit of putting everything in the same place. So when I leave the apartment, I'm not like rummaging around trying to find my keys, right? So a very basic system.
Oh, with the bike. You mentioned also about the bike.
So like this literally saved me from being in an accident recently. So I was turning left on my bike, and the system that I have is, before I turn left, you know how crazy the traffic is in Saigon. You check your mirrors. So I check my mirrors, shoulder check, make sure that no one's overtaking you, and then you turn. So the other day I checked my mirrors, and then I saw someone coming, overtaking me. So I pressed the brake, and then he like zoomed around me, and then I turned, right? So if I didn't have that system of checking my mirrors and then my shoulder, I would have probably hit him, right? So like, you know, these systems could literally save your life one day. It's this idea that you're automating your life, so you decrease your decision fatigue, right, throughout the day. So, you know, our decision-making process, it becomes more inefficient the further along we go throughout the day. Like Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, they're kind of famous for wearing the same clothes. Like Mark Zuckerberg has a grey t-shirt. Steve Jobs, he had a turtleneck black long sleeve top. And part of that was because you don't have to make that decision. Okay, what shall I wear in the morning? You just boom, wear your clothes, you go, right? So again, it's just like these simple things that you can do in your life, very actionable steps.
To make your life easier.
A lot easier, a lot more streamlined.
And minimalist. Again, we are holding on this idea of minimalism. And so while doing this, being productive, we reach what you call the flow state. And we already spoke about this in the previous episode, but I think you have more ideas now. about the flow state, how we can reach it and how we can sustain it.
Yeah, so the flow state I talked a bit about in the last episode, where it was like, you're so focused on what you're doing in front of you. You almost forget about what's going on around you. So I used to have this when I was gaming. I used to game a lot when I was young, doing 14 hours a day. So easy, so easy. I would always forget to eat. So it's like bringing that flow state into your work, right? And where you're super focused on one thing on your life. And again, I think it's about to reach that flow state, it's about the underlying layers of finding your purpose and really finding happiness in your life, like having those four pillars in check: health, wealth, people, and happiness. And then once you have stability, then you move on to adventure. Because I talk about productivity probably a bit too much on my channel. I think really I should be focusing on like your state of mind at any given time. I think that's very important when it comes to productivity.
Wow. Well, we look forward to watching these new videos from you then.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike, we talk about the importance of the flow state, of being like water, being productive and being happy. But you have one last point that you wanted to share with us, which is the law of reverse effort.
Yeah.
Right?
So this was first coined in the early 1900s by English writer Aldous Huxley. And it basically goes, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes if you're really trying so hard to achieve something, then often it decreases the likelihood of you actually achieving it.
Wait, one more time in English, but slow.
So it basically goes, if you're trying so hard to get something, to achieve a goal, then sometimes because you're trying so hard, it decreases the likelihood of you actually achieving that goal.
Okay, why?
Because, so let's take this to like content creation, right? I have this conversation quite often with YouTubers so the YouTube algorithm in like 2022 and before that, it was all about just pumping as much content out as possible, as many videos out as possible, and the algorithm would reward you. And so I would have this conversation with YouTubers and they'd be like, oh, I'm going to post every day. And I'm like, okay, how long are you going to do that for? Like a month, 2 months? And they're like, forever. And I'm like, okay, but I can always guarantee you that you're going to burn out, right? So that's like, they want to be so successful on YouTube so much that they're more thinking about the short-term gains as opposed to the long-term gains. So the law of reversed effort is more about sustained productivity, meaning that, and again, it's why I'm not doing 12 hours a day anymore. I'm not doing 13 hours, because I could probably do that for another maybe 1 year, 2 years. But it's like, I can do more in 8 hours if I really focus on productivity. So again, it's more about sustained productivity, and it's almost like an antidote to hustle culture. And I think that in terms of the productivity niche, we're kind of pushing too many people to be working too many hours, be working their fingers to the bone, and I think it's just not necessary for 99% of people. If you want to be the next Elon Musk, if you want to be the next Jeff Bezos, then sure, be working 14, 15 hours a day, sleep at the office. But if you're like the other 99% of us, then I think it'd be more beneficial to prioritize other areas of your life as opposed to just productivity.
I think that's what COVID did to us. Like kind of we had to work from home to realize, hey, there's actually life. You know, we don't need to spend so much time working, or we need to work, yes, but not as many hours. We need to enjoy life. So I like this, this idea that we need to prioritize some tasks, we need to focus on things, but also effortlessly, to not put more stress on our little shoulders.
Exactly, yeah.
And we are actually, unfortunately, coming towards the end of our interview. You guys, I'm sure at home as well, can listen to your talk for like hours, just like, okay, I'm learning and I'm listening, it's very nice. But I have one last question for you, Mike. According to you, what can we do daily to become a better person?
Right, so I've been thinking about this recently in terms of like, okay, what is the formula for success? Like, how do you become successful? At least in terms of like the traditional definition of success, like maybe your career, your job, like how can you become successful? And I think there's 3 main components that you should really be focusing on. The first thing is knowledge. So vast amounts of knowledge, and like no one has an excuse. We've got Google, we've got YouTube. I think that's so important. The second thing is execution or action, right? So Tony Robbins, he made an amazing video about this kind of seminar conference video on what is the main components of success. And he goes through all of these options. Is it money? Is it network? Is it having a successful family? Is it being smart? Like, what is it? And he narrows it down to one thing. he says is action. It's the people that actually take action, the people that are not afraid to fall flat on their face, then stand back up, then fall flat on their face, then stand back up. And it's those people that just keep going. Angela Duckworth, who's a professor at Pennsylvania University, and she says the same thing. Like, she's done so many studies, and she's known for the one thing that makes you successful is grit, having that determination of just keeping going. So knowledge is useless without actually taking action. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is timing, I think. And this is kind of overlooked, I feel like. Timing / luck, I think. So for example, Google, they launched in 1998, and I don't think they would have been as successful as they are if they launched 1 year earlier or 1 year later. Same with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, right, in 2004, just at the beginning of Web 2.0. The same with YouTube in 2005. So 2005 was an interesting year. It was when most people were transitioning from dial-up to broadband. And of course, broadband is a lot faster.
I have no idea, but okay.
Okay,
I trust
a lot faster internet. And so for the first time, people could actually stream videos online. And that's the same year that YouTube was launched. So like they timed it perfectly if they timed it a year earlier or a year later. An example now would be AI, right? In 2023, AI is really kind of booming. So those three things, if you want to be successful, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, those three things, knowledge, execution, and timing.
That's a big program for a day, but I accept the challenge willingly. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming.
It's been a pleasure.
You're amazing. Let me hug you if I can, with this outfit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.